Hi there, welcome to the first episode in a new series I'm trying called the Weekly Wrap-Up. And in this series, I'm just going to talk through the things that have been going on this week in my world of Warhammer. And that could include things like news that has been coming out in the hobby, things that I've been doing, like milestones that I've finally hit as somebody new to the hobby. And it's a less scripted format than I usually run, so I've got a few talking points that I want to run through, but outside of that, I'm just going to talk through things that I've found interesting over the past week. The first big thing that's been happening this week is everything going on around the Votann release, and as somebody new to the hobby, this has been a really fun and exciting time. It's pretty interesting. When the Votann were announced and we had that cool trailer where they were revealed, I wasn't that interested. They didn't really strike me as a faction that I'd actually enjoy playing. It just didn't capture my attention the way I thought it would. However, when the boxes were announced and I got to see the models, I feel like I had quite the opposite reaction to a lot of people out there, where that really sold me on them. I used to play a lot of Warhammer, Total War Warhammer, and my favourite faction in that was the Dwarves. Like, I really enjoyed playing them. They are such a flavourful army to play. I guess when I saw the models release, I started to remember those times and how much fun I had, and I decided at that point that I was going to buy the army set regardless if the army was good or not. It's funny, since getting into this hobby, everybody's been telling me buy into the rule of cool, like what army do I find the coolest, and just buy into that one, don't worry about the current meta, and for the most part, that's been good advice. But the problem is, as somebody new to the hobby, all of the armies are cool, and none of them really stood out for me until the Votann. This is the first time I've seen an army that's got me really excited about them releasing, and I had to pre-order them. So I actually pre-ordered last night, or yesterday morning, I guess. I was very close to getting 2 boxes. So my understanding is there are like 470 points without upgrades in this box once you've got it built up. And although I love playing combat patrol size games, I feel like I'm past that now as a beginner. So sure, it will give me a flavor, but it won't be the same as playing even 1,000-point games. So I was super close to buying 2, because the box was, I got it from Element Games, and the box was £94, I think, and I thought that was a great deal, a little bit more than a combat patrol. I was this close to pulling the trigger, but I saw the leaked images, I guess from the codex, of what the combat patrol looks like, and it looks like there will be a lot of crossover. So I think there are another 10 of the troops in there. You get another Carl. I think you get a bunch of berserkers in there, it looks like, and I think you get 3 of the bikes again. So that actually stopped me from buying a second army set, because I really didn't want to end up with, like, because you get 20 troops in each set, I didn't want to end up with 40 troops plus 10 when I inevitably buy the combat patrol. It just seemed like a bit of a waste of money. So I ended up not going for that. The only thing I'm still on the fence with is I don't know when the combat patrol will release. There are rumors that it will be October, which would be perfect, because I know it'll take me a while to build and paint these. So I'm hanging fire. I also didn't want to be selfish and buy 2 boxes of the the army set. However, I'm assuming they're either a lot less popular than people were expecting, or they've got a lot more stock, because a lot of people were worried that they were going to be all bought up within the first hour. It turned out, like, I think I checked in literally 15-16 hours later, and there was still lots of stock at Element Games. So we'll see how I feel. Maybe they'll announce some releases, and I can make a decision there if I want a second army box or not. I think there'll be plenty around. One thing that got me excited this week was seeing a lot of the community painters release their custom paint jobs on the Votann, or even painting it to the box art. But it's super cool to see it actually come to life and see those models out there in the wild now. I think I think it was Goonhammer, like, I think Garfy, oh, Tale of Painters with Garfy. Like, I saw his, like, bikes racing against some outriders. He did it perfectly. Like, they look super, super cool. And that got me really excited because bikes in this hobby so far haven't got me super excited, but actually seeing those in, you know, fair enough, a concept image, but I was like, actually this looks like it'll be a lot of fun. So that was really great to see that this week, and see some of the Votann come to life, really. Then the final thing with the Votann is I saw a lot of channels yesterday streaming the first battle reports. I'm assuming this is something from Games Workshop where they've been under NDA, because they were all streaming, you know, within like a couple of hours of each other, or releasing pre-recorded battle reports. But that was actually great to see. As somebody new to the hobby, again, you know, seeing these 500 point games is really easy for someone like me to digest and actually see what's going on, rather than it being like a 2,000 point mashup where I'm struggling to keep my eye on everything going on. Some particular things that caught my attention was the new Magna weapons, the Magna rail rifles, I think. Seeing that when you hit on a 6, it basically carries any damage over to other models in the unit. So that means if you fire that into troops and get 6s, it kills multiple troops, and it's pretty amazing. And then the way the judgment mechanic works is you put a token on. So I think basically when they've got one token and you hit a 5-up, it counts as an unmodified 6 roll. So on a 5-up, you actually then start having that damage overspill to other models in the unit. And then the more tokens you get, the more that spill, like the easier that gets to actually have that a modified 6 go through. So I'll need to check, but I think when you've got 3 judgment tokens, it then becomes like a 3-up, which is insane to have that absolutely crazy amount of damage going through. And then I think seeing people play them, they look like an army where in the first round, you know, they're still strong, but they've got low movement, and it's hard to do stuff in those first rounds because it's 5-inch movement on the troops. Their range on most of the weapons is 18 inches. So there isn't a lot you can do, but as you get into rounds 2, 3, 4, especially 3 and 4, when judgment tokens start to be spread out, it looks like it becomes so easy to shoot things off the table, because these judgment tokens make wounding targets really easy. So the way I think it works is if you have, say, 3 judgment tokens on a unit, that means on a 3-up, when you land the hit, it auto wounds and it counts as an unmodified 6. So it triggers a lot of different actions. And that got me really excited to see that the army gets stronger in those later rounds, because as a newer player, and this is probably just a me thing, I really struggle in those first, like, rounds 1 and 2. Round 1, I feel like I'm hiding all my units and don't really know what to do with them. I'm too afraid of advancing up the board and getting some important units shot off. And it's almost like I need to see what my opponent's doing before I've got the confidence to really react or know what to do. So that was super cool to see. And the battle reports I've loved watching, and I'll link them in the description, but it's got me really excited for the launch next week. I need to double check, but I think I can pick up my pre-order from Element Games on Friday. If that's the case, I'll go over and get them and then spend Friday evening and Saturday building out everything so I can play them with my friends the following week. I think that'll be really good fun. So that's the Votann. The biggest point this week for me, like the biggest highlight, I've loved just lapping up everything around them and cannot wait to get my hands on them. The second thing that's been on my radar this week is the new Kill Team Into the Dark set. So I love Warhammer, like I love the full-sized games of Warhammer, but they are such a time commitment. You usually need to set aside at least 3 hours to get through the game, including setting up and that sort of thing. I guess because I'm, again, a newer player, by the end of round 2, or maybe by the end of round 3, it's sort of clear who's going to win there. You know, it's usually not me. So usually my opponents are ahead on either points or they're ahead on kills, and I really don't know how to handle those situations, and over time I will get better. But the point is, Kill Team's caught my attention because I love the smaller skirmish style games that you have. So each model on the table plays a really important role, and it's almost down to like these heroic battles where you've got this dude going against this dude and they're clashing, and I really like that. They do a really fantastic job of marketing Kill Team. I've been interested for a few months now. I would say their product line's pretty confusing for somebody new to the hobby. So I forget what the box was called, Octavius or something like that, which is, it looks like that was the first like full box where you get 2 kill teams in there. You get all of the tools you'll need to get started, the little measuring things, you get terrain that you can build up. And Into the Dark, my understanding is that that replaces that. So it looks like this is a new season of Kill Team, essentially. The new box is, you know, you're fighting on this big ship. It's very modular design gameplay-wise, so you can snap these rooms together in different ways. And I don't know, like, I'm super tempted. The price has surprised me a bit. It's like £110 at Element Games for that box. And you do get a lot in the box, but for somebody getting into that, it feels expensive. So I'm not sure if that box is intended for somebody like me, where maybe there's a product below that, like the equivalent of the Recruit Edition in Warhammer. I'll need to look into it. But regardless, their marketing has really pulled me in, and I've been super, super close to pulling the trigger and just buying that box because it looks like something I'd enjoy a lot. The only thing holding me back is I've spent a lot in the past month or so. So I've bought the, well, my wife bought me the Drakari Combat Patrol. I've then been on a bit of a spending spree buying other things. So I've now got 2,000 points of Drakari, but I haven't finished painting my Tau yet. I need to then build everything. I would then need to paint everything, and I would like to actually have like fully painted armies. So it's something in the hobby where it's not my favorite thing to do. Painting I find really uncomfortable because I've got minor hand tremors, so I'm usually like hunched over the desk with my wrists braced on the desk, pushing down, because I find that pushing down, putting force on it, stops my hand tremors. So I'm like hunched over, which it's not the best for my back, but it's, you know, it's something that I'm learning to deal with. So long story short, painting is something that I keep putting off. I do kind of enjoy it. I'll come on to it next, but I've ended up painting a couple of things over the past week. I really enjoy the end result. It's something I want to get into a better habit of doing, of just painting every single day, even if it's just like 30 minutes an hour. So that's something I'm looking at. I do think I'll end up playing somebody with Kill Team first. So rather than invest, have to build up all the, you know, the unit and then build out all the terrain, I'm sure there are people in my hobby groups who are really into Kill Team. So one thing I might try and do over maybe some point in October is find a friend that has Kill Team with 2 armies, and we just play, just so I can see if I like it, because I've got a big suspicion I will, that I'll love it. I can still commit those, you know, 3-4 hours to a game night, but I'll end up having multiple games in that night, and that just seems like a really nice, fun way to break it up. A lot less intense with, you know, I'm sure there are objectives and so on, but it just seems like a simpler approach, which I do think I'd like from time to time. So Kill Team is the second thing that really caught my attention this week. The third and final thing is I've painted up my first ever Tau model. So I had this sprint where I was building 2,000 points of Tau ready for my first tournament. I started that in June, I think the start of June, and I was just short for the tournament. I got 1,800 points built up. I actually think I burnt myself out from just like building and building and building, and I never actually got finished with the building. And when I didn't make it, I think it did sap a bit of my energy. Now, I've been putting off, I think through fear of messing up my models, painting the Tau. And this is my first Fire Warrior that I've painted ever, and I'm really happy with the scheme on it. So I'm going for the standard Sept, which is Viola. I can't pronounce it, but I'll put it in text on screen. But basically, it's been really fun to paint this. I was afraid of painting white because of what everybody tells you, but I was following Duncan Rhodes' painting guide, and I guess again, as somebody new to all of this, but especially painting, I didn't realize when you contrast dark colors like black against a light grey, it actually looks white. And it's easier to paint with a light grey than white because of the pigments in it, or at least that's my understanding. I haven't highlighted this guy yet. I want to get the whole unit battle ready so I can just play with them on the tabletop. So like on this second unit here, I'm painting all of the black clothing at the moment, but I'm leaving the actual armor. So I've painted the armor, painted the clothing. I haven't finished the details yet, but I'm really happy with it. I think it looks super, super cool. I do think with some white highlights, it will make it really pop and stand out. And that's basically what Duncan Rhodes is suggesting, to bring in these white highlights, and it will make the armor look even more white. But I'm already really happy with this, so it'll be interesting to see where I go. This model, basically the motivation for that came from painting this model, which I released a video on. Now, my new good friend, James, who runs the channel Once in a Six Side, I was talking to him about my fear of painting, because it is something I've built up a bit of a barrier towards, and I'm not sure where that's come from. Maybe it was burnout, maybe it's just sort of giving myself an excuse to not paint because I'm worried about my hand tremors. Maybe even the hand tremors are an excuse. I don't know, I'm not a psychologist. My friend James was basically really great, giving me tough love. He was like, look, basically get over yourself. He got me to choose a color for the coat. He got me to choose a color for like the face, the skin, and then a color for the bone. So we've got like this little horn here on the top, and basically I got the colors onto the model and it looks pretty bad. So I got the colors down, and then you just get Agrax and you slap, like you just cover the whole thing in Agrax. And I was really happy with it. So this did really inspire me. You know, that yes, there are things I would change, but the back on this guy especially looks really gross. You know, poxwalkers are essentially zombies. So that looks super cool, and I would be really happy to play this on the tabletop. And that's what motivated me to get my Tau done. I'm not following the same technique for that, where I slap a load of Agrax on, but it is freeing me up to be a lot more careless in my approach, I guess. One thing as a new painter that always is a struggle is where, like on the Tau, for example, with the Fire Warrior, where the clothing meets the armor, I'm forever going back and forward because I'll get some of the black onto the gray and then I'll have to keep going back and forward. And I find it really challenging to get that right. It's really difficult. I don't want to keep blaming the hand tremors. I think it will come with practice. But like that little guy took me 4 hours to paint, and it's just an insane amount of time. The other ones I'm hoping go a bit quicker because I'm batch painting them, but I'm also not having to do the research. So I already know the colors I'm putting on it. I know what to look out for. Like on the back of the backpack, there's a little black like vial, or I guess it's metal, I'm not sure. But I know to look out for them now and paint them. Whereas on the first model, I kept going to the Citadel website, looking how they were painted, looking at what I've missed. Now I've basically fully painted up a reference model. I just look at this and say, okay, so there's some black on the back there, you know, on the feet, I know where like their cloth, or it looks like leather, I guess. I know where that ends and their hooves begin. I know how to approach the red like symbol, the Fire Warrior symbol they've got on their shoulder. I just really enjoyed painting it by the end. So that was a nice, pleasant surprise. And over the next week, I'm definitely going to focus on getting the entire squad painted up so I can take them into games next week, and that will inspire me to keep going. So that's my weekly wrap up of my time in Warhammer, this hobby. I'd love your feedback, so if you guys have got any comments on ways you would like to see this changed, or things you think worked or didn't work, please post below in the comments. I'd love to hear from you, and thank you so much for watching. If you haven't already, please do like the video. It helps a new creator like me out so much with the YouTube algorithm and helping more people find my channel, and do consider subscribing. I'd love to see you in the next one. See ya.